Hey sis, real quick before we dive in, do me a favor. Like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a thing. And if you're looking for a strategy lab for your business, a place where you can get more support, a place that's made for Black women entrepreneurs, then you gotta be in the Sistahbiz suite. So hit the link below and check us out. We saved your seat. All right, let's go.
It is my time. I am worth it. I can do this. I am focused.
Hey sis, hey, it's your girl Coach K. I am bringing to you my series on the things that we don't talk about when it comes to managing people in your business. And today I want to chat with you about, are you setting up your team to fail or succeed? And so I want to share some warning signs with you if you are maybe misaligning roles, and when your scope or your expectations don't really match the person's strength, um, what that looks like in the business. And so sometimes, and we talked a little bit about this in our other video on this series where we talk about the different options you have for when a person is struggling on your team. So if you haven't seen that video, check that video out. But um, sometimes when you are organizing the team and giving out work and delegating tasks and jobs and functions and projects, the issue is not necessarily in the team member being a low performer. The issue is around like where some of your strategic movements around delegation and assignment maybe not the strongest decisions that were really setting that person up to succeed. So I want to talk about what it looks like when you're maybe not necessarily setting up folks to succeed in that regard. And so the first um, warning sign or thing to consider is like when you're giving someone too large of a scope, or you have scope creep within your own team. And so what that can look like is you have a job, you bring someone in who is very skilled to do that job. But then when they come in, because you're a small business, and this is something that I think small businesses suffer from more than, well, no, not necessarily, but it is a common thing for small businesses and micro businesses or startups, because there's so much to be done in so little capacity that sometimes you can see work spilling over and then start putting stuff on people's plates and not really monitoring capacity. And so then you end up giving someone too large a scope. And so you kind of give them a mini CEO role. They become your right hand, but they don't really have CEO skills or they're wearing too many hats. And so you're pulling them in too many different directions. And so then they have diluted focus and they start dropping balls. And these things matter because they cause strife and stress and tension on the team and between you and that person. And really, while there may be some elements of performance that are contributing to the problems, if you could just take a look at the scope and make sure the scope is not too broad, not too big, not too diverse, not too out of the way in terms of what their skill sets were and what they were hired for, then you might find that, you can get them to perform better. You can help them do their job better. You can set them up for better success. Just being careful of that. Sometimes it can be easy to feel like, as the boss, as the person leading, you've got this team here and they're here to help you and support you. And so you can throw things their way to make sure everything is covered. But you have to monitor capacity. You have to monitor people's individual scopes of work and make sure that you're being realistic, that you're being strategic, and that you are really thinking about like the quantity, the load, the workload that you're given. Sometimes you need to just stop taking on stuff because you think you got a team that can take it on. And so I've been guilty of this, but I've also had clients where it's like, but this happens in particular when you have a product or a service that's in demand and you're getting offers and people wanting to work with you and you're popular and this is great, right? But then you're not using discernment to decide like, when are we at capacity? When do we need to start a wait list? When is this out of scope? When is this me just taking work because we don't want to miss the revenue, but me not thinking about, is this the time to take that particular offer of that client? And so when you're making those decisions, they impact your team. And you really need to think about, like, is this something that I should really check and learn how to parking lot certain initiatives, learn how to say no to people because it's out of your lane and it's like stretching your team too far. And so really thinking about just like this too large a scope thing is really important. And not just the volume of the work. I'm kind of gonna say it again another way, not just the volume of the work, but also is the work like outside of their skill set. And so it's really important. And it's really important to think about the how different the functions or tasks are that you're asking someone to do and what kind of switch it requires. So here, let me explain what I mean. So in my business, I definitely have blocked times and days for certain types of work because they require a certain type of thinking and a certain mindset and impact me in different ways emotionally. Like I'm not gonna do a day where I have to coach and be and create safe space for Black women on the same day that I have to talk to funders, which is super stressful. So like, are you doing that to your team? Are you giving them jobs that require space and mental space and diversity in the way they're able to handle and when they're able to do that work? You got to think about all those sorts of things when you're giving people work, and support them. Sometimes it is okay to like give them and delegate in that way, but make sure that you're supporting them. Do they need time management support, scheduling support, if you're going to be assigning them those types of diverse tasks and roles? All right. The next kind of warning sign or thing that you want to be cautious about is giving implementers strategy work. And so this just means that you have someone who is able to do, they're able to execute. You give them a job, you give them the proper amount of instructions, the tools that they need, the vision for the outcome, and they can go and they can make it happen. Everybody's blessed to have those when we have them, right? We're talking about our project managers, our virtual assistants, our COOs, the folks who are on the front line serving customers. We're talking about our doers. And you're trying to give them design or strategy work. You're trying to have them build something new, design something new, strategize and analyze around the creation of something, instead of giving them implementation work. And so you really need to know, are you working with someone who's an implementer or a strategist? And know what you need on your team. Like there's phases of your business in which you're definitely going to need people who can strategize and build. And there's phases of your business where like you have spent years or a good amount of time building systems, strategizing the core strategies in the business. And now you need someone to run execution largely more than anything. And then you have to invest in the team that can really implement and execute. And that's a different set of skills. It requires a different body of work. And so you want to make sure you're not giving implementers who aren't strategists, because you can be both. You can find someone who's good at both, and so that's very possible. But you have to ask yourself, like, look at their resume, look at their bodies of work. What have they done in previous jobs? What have they told you is like their strength, and what assessments have you done around that to know if you have an implementer or a strategist? Because sometimes strategists really are going to be amazing at designing the campaign, the idea, the concept, the product, the offer, the system, but they're going to suck at like, executing and vice versa, which, kind of takes me to that next piece, which is like giving strategizers implementer work. You don't want to do that. You don't want big thinkers bored with repetitive tasks, because then they won't stay and you're going to miss out on the benefit of their big thinking. And that's going to impact, the offer and the system and whatever was going to be built for the executors to execute on. And so be thoughtful and mindful of that. And sometimes strategists, when you give strategists implementer work, they miss the details. They're not paying attention to the details the way an implementer will. And that's not fun, because then balls get dropped and small things get missed and everything's not as, T's aren't crossed and I's aren't dotted. So you don't want a strategizer who's not really an executor doing implementer work. You'll know your strategizers because they usually have new ideas, big ideas. Um, they're usually wanting to create something and change something, and they're really good when you're brainstorming and that sort of thing around new concepts. And so just know that when you have those folks on your team, they have a place on the team. Just knowing where and when and how to use them to leverage them. And if you need them full time or if you need them, on a contract basis, that's really going to depend on where your business is and what you're building in the business at this time. So these are a few things that I want you to think about when you're thinking about, are you setting your team up to well? Just think about that scope of work and the capacity and the workload. Think about if they are designed for implementation or if they are stronger, should I say, at implementation and drawn to implementation work or strategy work. So those things really matter. All right. If this is helpful to you, guess what? This is a series, as I said. So there are other videos where I'm talking about these things that we don't talk about enough when it comes to people and hiring and management of folks in your business. And so check out the other videos if you're in that season. And make sure you comment below if you have tips, questions. Check us out.